more high-powered. Obuo Tanaka. Then we have Professor Shun Arima, also from Japan. Mr. Anish Day, an authority on the sector. Representing KPMG, Mr. B.M. Bansal, former chairman Indian Oil Corporation. The session is on fossil fuels and environment, which virtually is the theme of the energy transition, because we are moving towards zero carbon targets. In fact, we had the chairman of BP declare that maybe by 2050, BP will be a carbon neutral organization in respect of its own operations. Now that is one aim. It also means at the other end we've got to see what we can do. But why I mentioned this point is that fossil fuels are not going to die away. Heavily industrialized countries.
This guy is the environment minister of Japan, and he was given the fossil, and out of these four, the first revolution is the fossil fuel based revolution in the United States, and President Trump is saying US is energy dominant in the diplomacy. The next three revolutions are mainly started or led by China, and China is trying to use renewables, nuclear, etc., non-fossil fuels to reduce dependency to either Middle East or Russia or the United States by using renewables and nuclear power. So this is very geopolitical choice of China. Not sustainability's sake, but more geopolitical choice of the country in the future. So, who should protect the free navigation of the Strait of Hormuz? It should be China, India, Japan, Korea, or Asian countries who import 90% of oil from Middle East. China will be the largest importer of LNG in the future, surpassing Japan very soon. And United States will be the largest exporter of LNG, liquid natural gas, to the world, surpassing Canada and Australia very soon. So two major players are now in the battle of trade. So LNG market is certainly be impacted by the geopolitics between two countries. Renewable energy for the security. By the way, the great news of last year for me was India's request for accession to the IEA, International Energy Agency. I tried my best. Henry Kissinger is the founding father of the organization when it was created in 1974. And I met him when I became the executive director, and his advice is, Mr. Tanaka, your mission is to get China and India joining IEA. I failed in my term, but India had decided to request to accession of the IEA. That was a really wonderful news. Energy sector can contribute to carbon dioxide emission reduction toward the future. IEA
infrastructure, government and healthcare with KPMG India, a very eminent analyst, and I look forward to his contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Razdan. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dignitaries and experts on the desk. I don't have a presentation, which is quite unlike the consultant, but let me have a go with some thoughts which I want to share with you. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. Today is a much cleaner day as compared to what we see normally in Delhi often in the winters. But as those of us who live in Delhi know how severe it can get. So it's the topic which we have, fossil fuels and environment, is quite a timely one for Delhi and for India. Not only for the global implications of global emissions, but also for the local emissions which plague us and has consequences which we possibly haven't seen. Unfortunately, time has also brought us to the point where the tide has turned. So what started the New World Order some centuries ago, 2.5 centuries ago, that same economic development, that same world order is now putting us and the planet at great risk, You know, data is very clearly there to see that the world has opened up in the past 30 years in particular at an alarming pace. And this is by now, irrespective of the deniers, it's very clear that it's because of anthropogenic causes, because of man-made causes. We've seen evidences, we have Timbuktu and others from Australia over here. We've seen what happened in Australia this summer in Australia, where 11 million hectares of land was under fire, and much of it forested land was under fire. We don't count the CO2 emission cost of that, but that's a very significant amount of CO2 emissions happening because it's a cycle, and that cycle is playing out, and it's going to have some very, very significant consequences for us. In Antarctica, penguins are disappearing at an amazing rate. But what you would have seen day before yesterday in the newspapers, Antarctica is seeing temperatures of 20 degrees centigrade. Now, that's not something which you associate with Antarctica. You associate that with Bangalore, right? Not so that's what is happening. But closer to us in India, we are seeing weather events, climate events happening at an amazing pace. You know, amazing regularity, very disturbing regularities. The east coast of India, which is very prone, has always been prone to weather conditions, now are seeing the Filins and the Fanis of the world happening very, very regularly. It all has a cost. It has a cost, but you know, it's also the climate change effects are discriminatory. It affects the poor much more than it affects the richer people. It affects the world.
This is the outlook of fossil fuel in ASEAN in the business as usual case. And as you can see, between now and 2040, fossil fuel will continue to play a dominant role in ASEAN energy mix in terms of primary energy and also power generation mix. And this situation is the same in India, and also compared with ASEAN, the coal has even higher share in India in terms of primary energy consumption and power generation. And because of that, from now to 2050, Asian region will occupy the bulk of incremental CO2 and energy consumptions. And in Asia, while China could see the peaking out of CO2 emissions even before 2030, but India and ASEAN will continue to see the continuous increase of CO2 emissions. And fossil fuel dominant future, apparently, is not compatible with Paris Agreement. And Paris compatible SDS, Sustainable Development Scenario, which was presented by Mr. Tanaka, demand drastic reduction of fossil fuel in power generation for all over the world. And in that scenario, India and Southeast Asia also needs to substantially reduce the share of fossil fuel in power generation, in particular coal, and from 40 to 48% in reference scenario to merely 5 to 6% in sustainable development scenarios. So from that background, environmental NGOs argued that 88% of the coal reserves around the world should be kept underground to achieve 2 degrees target under the Paris Agreement. And I don't know how many of you have attended COP25 in Madrid like me, but as I said at the beginning, I was amazed with further escalation of so-called coal stigmatization. And UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres himself is leading such trend. He said, either we stop this addiction to coal or all our efforts to tackle climate change will be doomed. And as you can see in the black poster, for them, there is no clean coal technology. All the coal-related technologies are dirty. So for that reason, Japan's export to high-efficiency, low-emission coal technologies to Southeast Asia and India was heavily criticized. And as presented by Professor Tanaka, Japan has got 2 Fossil Fuel Day Award during COP25.
The emission, as we were discussing, that COP21 was one where India has also agreed to reduce its emission. And let's see in this scenario how the energy mix is going to change in the near future. How will it change? You heard the presentation? Okay, in the meantime, they find it. The crude oil, the energy requirement in India has been increasing. In 2018, it stood at 809 million tons of oil equivalent, and in future, it is going to grow up. In 2030, it will come up to around 1,490 million tons of oil equivalent, and by 2040, we expect it to cross 2,000 million tons of oil equivalent. However, India's per capita energy consumption is very low as compared to world average. It is only 1/3 of world average. And if you want to count in ourselves into upper middle income, we need to increase our per capita income and energy consumption has to increase. You have got it now. As of today, in our energy, primary energy requirement, we are getting mainly energy from the coal. Around 56% of the energy is coming from coal, 30% is coming from oil, and around 6% to 6.5% coming from gas. Rest, the renewables are still low, around 3%, 4% is the, and 1% like that, nuclear and hydro. But when you see the scenario in 2040, while the dependence on coal will still continue, but there will be a shift. The coal will come down from 56 to 48%. Oil will also come down because we have to reduce the emission. Oil will come down from 30% to 23%. And increase will be in gas. As per estimate today by IEA, it is only 8% in 2040. But as Mr. Pradhan has mentioned in the morning, that our efforts are to make it as a gas economy. So we are targeting the gas consumption to go from 6.5% to 15%. And there are a lot of steps required to be done. We will discuss as we proceed. But the major shift will be in renewable. The renewable, which is only 3% now, may go up to 16%. Can you go to the next? Dependence on coal will be increasing. Dependence on coal will be there. Coal will be reducing. But oil consumption in total quantity will increase, but percentage-wise it will be getting reduced. The dependence will increase further. You know that we are almost 85% dependent on import of crude oil. This dependence will keep on increasing because our requirement is increasing, and we have to make effort to see that this dependence can be minimized by developing the renewables, by as we mentioned, by maximizing the ethanol blending. All these steps are being taken to reduce the consumption, to reduce the dependence on the import also. India's domestic oil production has remained stagnant. That is our bad luck, that we are not able to increase our domestic production. There are no major finding in last decade, and that's why the dependence is increasing. And as I mentioned, the government has taken a number of steps to increase the production. If you see the next slide, the the exploration policy, which was under NDMC, was revised to HELP, where a number of incentives were being given for exploration and production of the crude oil. Then EOR, IOR policy, that is to enhance oil recovery and improve oil recovery. Again, incentives are being given to the companies. National biofuel policy, as Minister mentioned in the morning, we are planning to blend 20% of ethanol in the petrol and 5% of biodiesel in diesel. So that will also help in reducing the dependence on the crude oil. And open acreage as well as the discovered small fields, we are expecting the investment of almost 58 billion to be given to the companies so that they can start production from even these small fields also. The scenario in future, you see from the slide, the electricity, the major driver for oil demand will be electricity generation. The main will be road transportation, which will be increasing almost every year. And in the road transportation, demand for gasoline is expected to increase faster than any other product. And and to reduce again dependence on the oil, as Minister mentioned, that we are giving a lot of licenses for CGD distribution. Almost 75% of the area and 50% of the population will be covered in next few years. The growth of petrochemical industry has direct relationship because petrochemical demand is increasing day by day. So that the demand for petrochemicals will also increase.